It is so easy to get lost in all the graphs and articles and statistics around COVID and forget that behind each of these are real people and real stories. And my friends, Dave and Angel, have been through a very intense COVID experience and have come out on the other side. And they wanted to share their message with you in the hopes that they might be able to help prevent somebody else from going through this difficult experience.
Yep. So my name's Dave Amaya, and I am 49 years old. I consider myself to be pretty healthy. I have no allergies. I take no medications. No genetic markers or anything. We did some testing recently where, we did blood work and all that. And I just seem to be the perfect health guy at 49.
That's great. Angel, how about you?
I'm Angel. I'm 46. I am Dave's fiance. We both super healthy, no pre-existing conditions, not in any of the so-called risk groups that you hear about for COVID. We've both been healthy and uneventful health histories.
And so you've been practicing good hygiene practices for a while, but yet you still both ended up catching COVID. Can you tell us about your general practices and what do you think happened that ended up with you getting the disease?
So like I've told many people, we've been pretty vigilant as far as following the COVID rules. Obviously I work for First Watch, and I hear all the stories, and I've lots of paramedics and past EMTs that have kind of given me the scare on COVID, and then you hear all the stuff on Facebook of people, I don't believe in that stuff, and the riots and all that, and it's people not catching COVID, and you're just like, okay, what do you believe? So but we were following the practices, washing our hands. We teach that to the girls. When they go outside, they wear their masks. We've been teaching them social distancing. And, for the most part, I am a homebody, so I've been staying home, so it really didn't affect me that much because I just stayed home. Angel did most of the outside stuff. She did all the shopping. She, went to the stores or she went and got us food, or, we order from Uber Eats a lot stuff, during the COVID. So for the most part, we've been home, but other than Angel going out for the necessities.
I think we were so careful too. Some of our friends kind of made fun of us a little bit because we took it pretty seriously. We thought we were being pretty careful. To the point that some of our friends even kind of teased us about it.
Yeah. And we have a couple neighbors that, they, his wife has a condition. So she's, if she got COVID, it would be very serious. So they had been really serious. So they were about the only two people that we really hung out with. And, we'd go camping with them. They had their camper. We had our camper. But, we had a really tight, closed circle.
And then what happened?
So Angel's oldest son, he moved back from Florida, and it was his birthday. And we invited him and his older sister and Angel's mother over to cook. I had a friend of mine that thought he had COVID in January, had all the signs and symptoms, was sick for a while, blah, blah, blah. And then so him and his girlfriend came over, and we were sitting on the back porch, sitting here at the kitchen table where we're sitting now. And then obviously Angel's mom and stuff was cooking. We're sitting at the bar, having, just some cocktails and waiting for her mom to eat. And we're pretty certain that's the night we caught it.
Yeah.
Obviously nobody knew that they had it. So somebody here had it. And
that was Thursday, July 2nd.
Yeah, July 2nd. And
by Sunday, some of us were already showing symptoms. By Monday, all of us were. So everyone had symptoms by the end of Monday night.
And by everyone, who all do you mean?
Everyone who was here except the children. I have 4 children. My older adult children both had it. My young minor children did not, or if they were asymptomatic. We never had them tested, but every single adult who was here came down with symptoms.
And what symptoms did you see initially? What did you experience?
I woke up first Monday morning. I woke up, he usually gets up earlier than I do. I don't get up early, and he was up early and was surprised that I had gotten out of bed. And but I was telling him I had like this really strange backache that I'd never felt before, and I was so uncomfortable. I couldn't find a position comfortable enough to even keep sleeping. And so I got up, and he was like, "What are you doing up?" I'm like, "I don't know. I have this weird back pain," and I didn't really think anything of it. And later on in the day, I started getting a headache, and by probably late afternoon, I was running a fever. And by that evening, my fever was a little over 102, and I went to urgent care. So I was actually the first one who tested positive.
Yeah. And mine, Mike, I'm sure you remember the emails, but I even kind of bragged to Angel and stuff that, I really didn't have any symptoms. I too had a small backache and
a fever
and a little fever. And I didn't think really nothing of it. I don't think I've called in sick for like 10 years. So I just never get sick. I'm just, I've never had the flu. I've never, I can't tell you the last time I had a fever. So I just didn't really think nothing of it. And so I was kind of bragging to her and to, some of our coworkers. I'm just like, man, I think, after 14 years of traveling, I think I'm just immune to getting sick, so, cause I wasn't even thinking COVID at the time. I was just thinking, hey, this is a little illness and it'll pass. And so I really wasn't affected until 9 days later.
He didn't even plan to go get tested. We just didn't see a point. 5 of the 8 of us had gone to get tested, and all came back positive. The other 3 were like, you obviously have it, came down with symptoms the exact same time we did. There's really no point in wasting a test, frankly.
Yeah, actually.
And so he didn't plan to even go get tested.
Yeah, the urgent care lady even said, well, it's pretty obvious that he's probably got it. Unless you want to waste $115, I would just say, he's pretty much got it. So. But then 9 days later, the symptoms got worse. I had a temperature of 107.
It was weird though, like at about probably day 6, he started coughing, but it was not like a regular cough. It was almost like he kept describing it like he had an itch in the back of his throat. Like it was just kind of like this, just like he had an irritating little itch in the back of his throat. But it got to that little cough. I mean, it wasn't what you hear. It wasn't that COVID dry cough. It wasn't a gasping kind of cough. It wasn't wheezy. It was nothing like that. It was just this little, and he would even go like constantly trying to clear that itch. And that progressively got worse and worse and worse to like, he couldn't stop doing it. It was just nonstop.
Yeah, Mike. And I think it's important to say also, so, obviously I had these mild symptoms and they were getting a little worse. So at that time I elected to send an email to work and let them know that, Angel had, got COVID, and, I'm pretty sure I had it as well. So, I'm showing signs and symptoms. And, at that time you actually reached out to me and says, hey, do you have an oximeter? And I said, what is that? And, Mike says, I'm sending one to your house. It'll be there tomorrow. You need to check. And so pretty sure, the next day it came, and
he'd been doing that for a few days because we got it. Yeah. You sent it to us right away, and he'd been checking us all, and we had been fine. It had been fine all along. He had been checking us.
Yeah. You've been sending me the texts where you were like 96 or 97.
Yeah. We were fine.
Yeah. And then it got down to the day 9, it got down to, 93, I believe. And
and he went to urgent care. We took him to urgent care that morning for the cough, to try to get something to control the cough. We had done like a telemedicine the day before, and they'd given him something, but it just wasn't helping. So on July 14th, that morning, we got up and we're like, let's go to urgent care and see if there's anything else they can do to help.
Yep. They gave me some high codeine and sent me packing with 107 temperature, sent me home with codeine with still 107 temperature.
Wow. That's hot.
Yeah. I think his O2 sat rate was 93.
Yeah, it was like 93. And they said, if it gets to 91, you need to come back. So basically we came back home. I took the codeine. It seemed to control the cough for a little bit. The temperature was still up. So, Angel just said, hey, we got to get your temperature down. So she said, hey, let's take a lukewarm bath, so she, not too cold. She didn't want me shivering because that's going to make the fever go back up, but just warm. And, so we were upstairs and she got me in the bath, and, she wanted to get the oximeter and the temperature thing. So she had to run downstairs. And by the time she ran downstairs, and I say ran because she did run, and got back upstairs, I was already shivering. So she says, we got to get you out of the bath. So got me out of the bathtub. I got dressed. I seemed to be really winded. So I actually asked her if I could just lay on the bed for a minute. So I propped myself up kind of on the bed with my pillows, and I laid there and I said, hey, I just want to rest a little bit. And she said, okay. And I thought she was leaving the room, but I said, hey, don't leave. Or I said, you going to check on me? And she goes, I'm not leaving the room. I'm going to sit over here and just kind of, work a little bit. So obviously she was, I think her nerves about 2 minutes later, 1 minute, 30 seconds later.
I thought I'd give him 15 minutes because he was like, I think if I just, he was breathing really rapid, like I could see how fast he was breathing. He wasn't coughing anymore and he wasn't wheezing. And my daughter has asthma. I've seen what that looks like. It wasn't that pulling that you see. He wasn't wheezing. His breathing didn't sound labored. It was just fast. And so he was like, I think if I just rest for a second. So I'm like, okay. So I just sat in the corner and watched him. And in my head, I'm like, I'm just gonna give him 15 minutes to like see if he can just relax. And I had given him Tylenol. His fever had come down a little bit. So I thought, if I can get the fever down, his heart rate will drop down, his respiratory rate will fall down. So I'm just watching him. And I can see it's so fast. And I can't tell I'm even trying to time my own breathing with his from across the room to see if I can see how fast it really is. And I couldn't give him the 15 minutes. My nerves were I'm like, I got to check on him. So I ran and grabbed the pulse oximeter again. I stuck it on his finger, and it takes a minute. When you first put it on, it'll take a couple seconds. It'll go up. But when I first stuck it on his finger, it said 74. And I was like, oh shit, we're in trouble. And so sorry, I didn't mean to swear.
No, it's good. You're fine.
I really did think that though. I probably thought a worse word, but and I just looked at him and said, we got to go. We got to go to the hospital. We got to go now. And he goes, we do? And I go, yeah. And he honestly, it's crazy. By the time I got him there, his temperature was back to 107, but he was completely coherent. He even directed me to the hospital. He doesn't remember that, but he was of sound mind to tell me he wanted his iPad and to grab him a charger, and he put his own shoes on and got in the car, and he was literally his oxygen saturation was below 80 and his temperature was 107, but it's scary because I keep thinking I have a bunch of coworkers in the health systems in New York, and I keep hearing about people dying at home. And I'm like, I understand how now. He didn't have any of those symptoms you would typically see with someone who's having respiratory distress, or at least what I'm familiar with from being a mom of an asthma kid. It didn't look anything like that. And he was his cognitively, he was so with it. He didn't seem sick. I know that's crazy, but it's terrifying to think if I had let him take a nap, which is what he told me he wanted to do. If I had left the room and let him take a nap, I don't know that he'd be here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you got to the hospital.
Yeah, and that's the really crazy thing, Mike, is I remember her saying, we got to go to the hospital. And I don't have any recollection of leaving the house, driving in the car, getting to the hospital, all the way until I woke up on the ventilator, or off, they're taking me off the ventilator. I don't remember anything in between other than a few little pieces. I remember, listening to the music, and I remember the lady, putting the swab of, cleaning out my mouth and stuff like that. But other than that, I have little
snippets
and thoughts of that. But other than that, I don't remember anything.
I would suspect Angel remembers.
I wish I didn't remember.
She's definitely got a story for that.
Angel, can you just kind of walk us through, the hospital course?
Yeah. It's funny, like right before, when I first got him out of the bathtub, I had said to him before he said he wanted to take a nap, I had said, we may have to go to the hospital. Like, I don't know what else to do. I'm starting to get nervous. And he said, I don't want to go to the hospital because I don't want to be alone, because of course, COVID patients can't have visitors. And him saying that I kept hearing him say that throughout the hospital stay. So when he first got there, his oxygen demands actually weren't super high. He was only like 3 liters. And they kept getting higher. It was 5, and then it was 7, and it was 9, and it was 12, and it just kept getting higher and higher until they had to go to different oxygen delivery systems. So they ended up getting him on high flow, and tried the BiPAP at first. And he's a little claustrophobic, and so that just that mask, I think, kind of freaked him out, and he didn't do very well on it the first time they tried it. They were able to get him go back to high flow, and then got to where that wasn't enough oxygen anymore either. So he had a wonderful nurse who was able to kind of talk him through the BiPAP and was able to kind of get him comfortable to use it. And we thought we were good. Like, he was doing really good on it. Oxygen levels were good. He was tolerating it well. And went all day on the 16th on BiPAP and was doing great. Even when she left her shift at 7 p.m., even offered to give him a little break from it if he wanted to get a sip or a drink and take it off for a minute. And he even told her no, that he was fine. He didn't need a break. And so I thought we were good. Like, he was mentally doing great. I mean, it was a really good day. And then that night, I was on the phone with his nurse, and just an hour after hanging up with her, sometime in the middle of the night, like 1 a.m., my phone rang, and he wasn't doing good. His oxygen saturation rates were dropping again, and he was like delirious. So he wasn't making any sense. He was talking to people that weren't there, and he's trying to take it off, and he doesn't even understand where he is anymore. And she's like, we don't really have any other choice. We're going to have to put him on a ventilator. And so I asked her if I could FaceTime him first, and he FaceTimed me, but he was just he wasn't even with it enough to even know what was going on. And I was trying to explain to him, but, and by that point, it's funny how that coughing and breathing had changed. This was 2 days later. And like I said, when I took him there on Tuesday, it just wasn't a typical respiratory distress kind of sound or look. By Thursday, it was. I mean, he was gasping for every single breath and working so hard for every breath. And even earlier in that day had told me he was so exhausted from it that he just couldn't do it anymore. And so by the time they FaceTimed me right before putting him on the ventilator, I mean, he could hardly talk to me, but he was trying to. And I made him promise that he was coming home to me and that he would keep fighting, and he promised me. And they put him on the ventilator, and so they told me that they'd call me back as soon as they had him on it. They called me back, and he needed way more support than they had anticipated. So when they got him on the ventilator, they were anticipating him being at about 60 on his oxygen level, and maybe a PEEP of 10, 12 maybe. He actually had it completely maxed out. So he was at 120. And they were not super hopeful. I mean, they kept stressing to me that he was on life support, that he had it completely maxed out, and there was nothing else they could do for him at that point. So it's pretty rough.
Terrifying.
Yeah, it was rough, but he did great. They put him on remdesivir, azithromycin. He was on Decadron. They ended up doing convalescent plasma therapy, put him on tocilizumab for a dose of that, and slowly but surely his oxygen demand started coming down. His inflammatory markers started coming down. He had a little bit of problem with his liver enzymes going up and his blood pressure kind of up and down, but just he had an amazing staff, and they were phenomenal to him, like clinically and just as humans. They were so good to him. But we spent I just FaceTimed him from the time they called me back to tell me he's on the ventilator. I asked her if I could FaceTime him again, and I just decided to FaceTime him from there on out. And I FaceTimed him until he left the hospital, and I talked to him a lot. And
How long was it after he got put on the ventilator that he was off, that you were on FaceTime?
we FaceTimed over 200 hours. I stopped counting at some point, but we FaceTimed from Friday morning at about 1 o'clock in the morning until the next Sunday. So like 9 days straight.
Yeah, she FaceTime even when I was on the ventilator, and read books to me and played music and had friends come talk to me. And
What kind of music?
Kiss. Actually, though, what's funny is I was in a panic and I was trying to download him songs. He loves music. And so I thought, gosh, I didn't want him sitting there listening to beeps and, he's by himself. I knew I would be with him, but I just wanted his brain thinking about other things. And so I had downloaded all this music, and I had downloaded mainly like Kiss and Iron Maiden and But I had also downloaded Gary Allen. He likes country too. And what's funny is when he was finally coming off the ventilator, he still had it in, but they had backed off his propofol to let him start waking up. He actually wrote me a sign and turned it around to the camera, and it said Gary A. And I was like, what? And I'm like, wait, Gary Allen? You may play Gary Allen. So apparently he got eventually sick of the music I had downloaded.
Yeah.
But that's all I did. I spent those 9 days, he was on the ventilator for 7. And I just spent those 7 days just trying to be crazy positive, talking to him constantly about what we were going to do when he came home, and singing to him or talking to him, reading to him. I read a book to him. I talked to him all the time. I just didn't want anybody being negative around him. I didn't want him. I just wanted him. I mean, he's a really positive guy anyways, and I know how resilient he is and how strong he is. And I kept reminding him of that, but I just tried to surround him with positivity, and I don't know.
So it's a pretty remarkable recovery. As you know, I spend a lot of time talking with critical care and emergency medicine physicians, taking care of the sickest of the COVID patients, and to recover as quickly as you did from as sick as you were is unusual and pretty wonderful. And so, how long have you been home now?
2 weeks now.
2 weeks now. So, when you first got home, how was it? What I know, I'm sure it was exciting to be home, but how are you physically besides the wonderful emotional reconnection here?
Yeah. So the really crazy thing is 7 days on a ventilator, I actually lost 28 pounds of muscle mass. And so not necessarily belly fat, but I always prided myself on having really nice looking calves, and they were gone. They were like little stick legs now. She obviously always liked my round butt, and that was gone. My arms were always kind of filled out. They kind of always made my shirts a little tight, and now they're obviously they slip in and out very easily now. But 28 pounds of muscle mass, and you don't think that's much, but obviously I was a fall risk in the ICU. I had to press my button to go to the bathroom. They had to have a nurse come in and follow me to the bathroom so that I didn't fall, if you ever want to be degraded, just have a nurse follow you to the bathroom and then have to, take care of wiping and all of that stuff. So, a complete stranger doing that, even though they do it all the time on my side, I'm thinking, wow, I'm 49 years old and I have to have some lady I don't know, wipe my butt. So it's all part of this experience that I had. And it's something I remember. Obviously I was awake at the time, but it's just something I kept thinking, I don't want anyone else to have to go through this. I had this tube down my mouth, and, I had it in there from night until morning, until the doctor came in that next day. And, then they decided to take it out when they found out I could breathe on my own. And, having him lay out this big giant medical blanket on my lap and tell me to look straight up. And then he starts yanking on this tube out of your mouth. And, that little tube is not 3 feet. It's literally like 5-6 feet. And he kept yanking it like this with both hands. And I'm just like, when is this thing going to stop? And, it's got this little blue tube, and then it's got these little tubes off the side with these little orange flippers that reminded me of a duck for some reason. But, it's an experience that I just would not wish on even my worst enemy, if I had one, on anybody, because it's not a pleasant experience.
But you made good progress since you've been home.
Yeah, to answer your question, I used a walker for the first couple of days. I basically had to learn how to walk again because your legs are just, the strength is just not there.
He's calling them baby deer legs.
Yep. It's I always, kind of walking like a baby deer, they're kind of not fully balanced. And that's kind of how I was. And, I had to have a shower seat put in our shower. I had to have an oxygen with 57 feet of tubing so I could walk around the house and get upstairs to my bed and sleep with it. So I had oxygen for a while. And, in the 2 weeks I've been home, I kicked the walker after a couple days, and I started walking on my own. The shower chair went out this week. So I'm standing, taking a shower now.
Lost the oxygen.
I lost the oxygen a few nights ago. So my, obviously Angel's been, a hell of a doctor for me, or nurse, or whatever you want to call her. she basically saved my life, you know. So, you know, I finally got rid of the oxygen because she checks my O2 about every hour. She checks it. Give me your finger. You know, that's a common sentence in our house now is give me your finger. So she does that pretty regular. And, you know, once it stabled off and it was pretty regular, even after doing little tasks, then we got rid of the oxygen. We still have it here in case it went down, but yeah. So, you know,
You walked a mile this week.
yeah, I've walked a couple miles, you know, one each night, in between a couple days. So yeah, it's just getting stronger every day.
That's so helpful, and I am so grateful for your willingness to share this story. You know, raw and personal as it is. So if you were in front of folks who don't necessarily believe that this is real, or people who maybe don't want to wear a mask all the time, or think that, you know, they can gather with, you know, family, or, you know, go to church or go to a concert or to a bar or whatever, and it'll be okay. What would you say to them?
My message, well, and it's funny you say that. Let me give a little story behind that. So obviously, you know, Facebook, and I have friends, and actually this week is Sturgis, which we were actually planning on attending before we caught COVID. Obviously we were planning on wearing masks and stuff like that, but, you know, you get, you know, 250,000 people out there, and I was planning on going. And then I've got Facebook friends that, you know, talk about conspiracy theory and, you know, my rights to not wear a mask. And so obviously Angel was very good at sharing our story on Facebook and kept everybody updated. And, you know, people that we didn't even know were following my story from all over the world, and just asking how Dave's doing. And I'm just amazed by that. So obviously there. And so, you know, my own friends that are going to Sturgis and they're recently taking pictures with hundreds of thousands of people without no mask. And I literally just sit back and I'm like, did you not learn anything from my story? So, and, you know, I get people saying, oh, it's conspiracy. It's my right to wear a mask. And at first I started like, you know, kind of just letting it go. And then recently I literally have been saying, if you think that wearing a mask is smart, come over to my house and I'll tell you my story about, you know, being on a ventilator, and Angel's story of being helpless at home because she can't sit in a hospital room with me. And it doesn't only just affect you, it affects your loved ones as well, because they have to sit at home. And, you know, for 7 days, Angel literally paced the floor, not knowing what was going to happen to me. Even after a chaplain and a doctor or a social worker call her and say, it's not looking good, you want me to pray for him? And, you know, he's got the ventilator maxed out. You know, those are things that, you know, not only you are experiencing, but what your family is. So to answer your question, Mike, I would say the thing I took for granted in this whole thing is, you know, Angel's family coming over, and, you know, I just let my guard down thinking, hey, they're family. There's no way they could give me COVID in my own house, because literally I caught it right here in my own house, sitting at the chair that I'm sitting in now talking to you. And that never even crossed my mind to think, oh man, I should wear a mask in my own house with 6 people that are family members. That never crossed my mind. And so now, you know, we have a rule, no one comes in our house. So even our friends and stuff, if they want to come over and visit, they sit on the back patio where I got, you know, a couch and a chair out there, you know, lawn furniture. And I'm just like,
And we still wear masks even out there now.
We require them to wear a mask. I wear a mask. She wears a mask. So if you're outside with us, you have to wear a mask. We're all 6 feet apart. So that's just kind of our rule now. It's just not worth it.
I think the other thing too, like, I think the thing that I keep trying to explain to people, you know, 2 of the people who were here that night were in risk groups, right? My daughter has asthma and my mom is in her 70s. They both recovered just fine. No problems at all. He is not in any risk group at all. And he ended up on a ventilator. And so I think everyone, you know, I keep saying the risk group is being human, and it's just Russian roulette.
Yeah.
That is the best ending to this conversation I could possibly imagine. I am so grateful for your openness and your willingness to share this story. And as we talk and we put this together, if this encourages even 1 or 2 people to wear their mask more often, to physically distance, and remember to wash their hands. It has been a good public service announcement, and there's a good chance you may end up saving the life of somebody you'll never meet through this process. So I am really grateful to the two
Thanks,
of you.
Mike.